I've been using Firefly to see if I can make a Dungeons and Dragons room with a particular prop, in this case a brass telescope. And then I've gone into Photoshop and I've tried to do similar, and I'm trying to, because Photoshop has got so much control over color, I thought I could do something to control the color of the room, which I had success with yesterday when I was trying to make a living room, but with the Dungeons and Dragons prompts, I don't see how to do it in the same way. So maybe yesterday was just lucky rather than a good process for colouring a room's walls in the colour of choice. So what I've done is, this is the colour I want, this purple colour here, and I've used not the eyedropper but the colour sampler tool, clicked on the purple, and then over here I see the red, green and blue values. I've then gone into a search engine and searched for the name of that RGB value, and I'm suggested electric violet. So back in my failed attempt, I'm going to type electric violet color room in a Dungeons and Dragons adventure with, in this case, an ancient scroll is what I want. Click generate. That's much better. Let's compare that with that color there. Yeah, I'm okay with that. Close enough. And then what was it I asked for? I asked for an ancient scroll. I don't really see it. So let's click generate again, see what happens. There, that's more like it. The ancient scroll is there, and I've got suggestions of alternative pictures. Ancient scroll, ancient scrolls. So yeah, I think I can work with that. As long as I've got a description for the color to use in the prompt, I should be all right. So what I've been thinking of is different approaches to make rooms by having a prop that has to be in the room and then a color for the room. And what I'd also like to do is to color in the item. So over here with this scroll, or let's see if there's a better one that's more obvious. Okay, let's say with this scroll here, one of the features of Photoshop is the ability to select an item. Object selection tool. So if I click on the scroll, it will try to guess the outside of the object so that the whole thing is selected and I can change its color. That's if it guesses well. If it guesses badly, then I can't do it. Maybe I'm using the wrong tool here. Let's click on another object, see if I'm using the right tool. In some cases it works, just doesn't like this thing here. So I could spend time trying to sort it out, or I could go to another picture and try to use that feature on something that perhaps is easier for it to recognize and select. Okay, so it selected that. And now I could use a color replace tool. Um, Color replacement tool. Okay, and then back at my list of colors, let's use the color picker, which is the eyedropper tool. And let's choose a color, this light blue. And because this is selected, and as long as I'm using the color replacement tool, I could choose a brush size the small objects must be rasterized. Rasterize, yep, rasterize it so that it's pixels I can color in. And then just wildly moving the mouse while I'm left clicking on my mouse, I can color the object the color of my choice. So this is a way in which well, in this case, what I'm trying to do is make rooms which represent position across a grid and position down a grid. So say that you've got 36 squares across your grid and 18 squares down your grid, and you know that each of the 18 has its own color, such as electric violet, and each of your 36 has got an object. Just trying to make it as simple as possible. And in this case, at this particular position, the object has to be a scroll. Then by having a picture that's electric violet in nature, although I'm not so sure what this picture was electric violet, but one that is electric violet in nature, and then you fill the color in with a color that encrypts the information that you want to memorize there. You have a way to find the exact position in the grid, to remember it by using the clue of what the prop should be and what the room color should be. And then by concentrating on the color of the prop, you can get some encrypted information out of it as well. Um, it's that idea that the ingredients of the room build you a nice memory palace room, but you're also able to store some data within the picture. I used Firefly to see if the props which I came up with are easy for AI to generate as images, images which I can change the color of in some cases. So I made a list of trees. Let's jump into that. And you can see along the top the name of each tree. There need to be 18 to represent the 10 degrees of latitude that you get from 0 to plus 90 and 0 to minus 90 on the type of map that I'm using, which has 10 degrees by 10 degrees per grid square, which causes 36 squares across and 18 squares down on the world map, which the memory palace is representing. So the 648 squares can be used as a regular memory palace or as clues to what sort of geography is in a particular square of that 36 by 18 world map. Zoomed out enough so that some of the squares you'd say are just land, even though obviously if you zoomed in on pretty much any big area of planet Earth, you'd find rivers, waterways, if it's on land, that is. But this is zoomed out enough that you'd say that a square is land, i.e. there's no water so big that it would be seen from really high up in the sky. Weeping Willow looks a bit like one of the ones from earlier. Looks a bit like that. That's the Himalayan birch. And the Weeping Willow does look a bit like it, but I'd say it's got more, it's more elongated. There's more to it, drooping downwards. Weeping Willow, and that one. And the bark on this is white with hints of grey, whereas that has no lightness to the bark. So that's what I've tried to do. I've tried to find distinctive props, in this case all being trees. With the flowers, similar approach, try to find items which are different from each other so that it's not too hard to know from the picture which of the 18 is indicated. So that's the bird of paradise. That one. These don't involve colour fill because trees and flowers are to do with squares which are for sea and just for sea. So there's no need to encrypt any additional detail by changing the colour fill. We'll get onto the latitude in a second because flowers or trees are describing longitude. If this plant here was on the left, it would imply a different longitude to it being on the right. A function of adding 18 to cause more of a longitude answer, if that makes sense. And for latitude, we've got garden props. So if the barbecue occurs in a picture, then that's a very particular 10 degrees of latitude. The bird bath would be another latitude range, and so on. So it's all orchids in these examples, with the idea being that the orchid would indicate a particular longitude, also bearing in mind if it appears on the left, in the middle, or on the right. And then the other objects indicates the latitude of the sea square. And again, if you zoomed in on the sea, probably, well, you might find small little islands, but I'm talking about more of a satellite view, and whether you'd say that something was entirely sea in the grid square of the map based on a really high up view. And then in the home, so this is to do with land. We've got examples here. Armchair, bar cart, which is this thing, in bags, etc. The dresser is a bit like the thing that a TV sits on. So having a TV there matters in discerning whether something is a dresser or a TV stand. Writing desk generated something that looks like a table to me. So I don't mind if it makes a table. I'll lump it together with the idea of writing desk. And then we're on to the role play places and the props which occur in those. Ancient scroll, antique locked vault, antique map, which is different to the scroll. Boned dice, etc., etc. The glowing gemstone is a different shape to the crystal ball. So yeah, everything should be distinctive. I'm not sure about colour fill of the bird cage. That might cause me some trouble. But other shapes, I think the Photoshop will be good at changing the colour fill of them by either using the colour replacement brush or using a regular brush but changing its transparency.